Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grip Blocks, Foundation Disc Golf's weekly podcast. I'm Hunter, joined as always by Trevor and Konner. We've got quite a lot to talk about. Really, you're just gonna bust it out right there, Konner. Top of the episode.
Intrusive thought.
Okay, we're gonna go over Ledgestone. We had quite the tournament out there. A lot of storylines from that. We have some Manufacturers Cup update, and Edwin actually provided us with some different Manufacturer Cup leader breaking down the individual peoples. So that'll be fun. Trevor had a take on Twitter. We'll have him defend. And then we have...
it's like a thesis.
Yeah. And then we have the DGPT layoff controversy.
Yeah.
That
Dude,
went
what
down.
a juicy epi.
Yeah, we got...
What the
frick just happened? We got a lot to go
Silus
through.
broke half the stuff.
But before we get into that, we got to thank the sponsor of today's episode. Many disc golfers have tons of extra discs cluttering up their closets and cars. There are very few storage products on the market that are designed specifically for golf discs that don't waste any space, and unfortunately, the ones that do exist are terribly expensive. Thankfully, there is DiscBox. DiscBox is the only low-cost disc golf storage product on the market. It's a simple disc storage bin that holds up to 30 discs, requires no tape or glue, and is made from recycled material in the USA. So go to discboxdg.com and you'll find quantity discounts, wholesale options, multiple colors, and most importantly, no order minimum, so you can order just a single box if you want. DiscBox also makes a great player pack item, so visit discboxdg.com today and get your collection organized, and don't forget to use code FOUNDATION to get 15% off your order.
I'm not going to lie, guys. I saw Silus bring over the bag that has the Silus Select in it, and it makes it really difficult for me to focus on this episode at all.
Oh, okay.
Like, all I'm thinking about is what's in that bag.
Well, stay locked in.
You stay locked in on that.
Get it right.
You know what?
You're going to get it right. You have an hour to get it right.
I will listen to the end of this podcast episode just so that I can find out. Everybody listening should do the same.
Okay.
All right. You sound good.
Ledgestone went down. We had Ganon Burr take it down. Ezra, I just put Ezra, and I almost said Aderhold. Not Aderhold, Robinson.
Well,
Ezra Robinson come in second, and then Chris Dickerson and Calvin Heimberg tie for third. Over in FPO, we had Holland Handley take it down, and then we had Lisa Fakis and Haley King tie for second.
Out Lisa Fakis. And also, I think it's funny that Haley King, I think this happens quite a bit, especially in FPO, but I think just then on the preview show, we kind of did like our once every few months, what the heck happened to Haley King? And then she just like shows up.
Yeah, we were talking about like players that you don't know what to expect out of. And we were saying Paige Pierce, and then we said Haley King.
Proved your take.
Proved our take. We didn't know what to expect out of
Proving my take.
Proving my take. Holland, though, very impressive win, 7 strokes over the field. The course really lined up for her game, but obviously she still had to show up well and execute it because it lined up well for several players' game. She was 2 strokes back of Missy Ganon after round 1. Then she had a 4-stroke lead after round 2. She held that lead after round 3 and then pushed it to 7 in the final round. Really, the big storyline here is she just threw the disc incredibly well. Yeah. If you look at her stats, she had a birdie look from at least circle 2 on 75% of the holes.
Yeah, that's insane.
And she converted on birdie on 49% of the holes she played this weekend. So she birdied almost exactly half of the holes that she saw this weekend. Yeah, she actually gave herself a birdie look inside circle 1 49% of the time, and that's also the exact amount of time she birdied.
Yeah.
They didn't exactly line up. She hit a few circle 2 putts for birdie, but just a fun little stat there. And this has even impressed me more because she was throwing the disc very well. She led the field in strokes gained tee to green, but she won by 7 while going OB 7 times as well. Yeah. Meaning very easily could have been a 10-plus stroke lead if she just kept the disc in bounds a little bit more. Yeah. In my opinion, I think Missy Ganon was the favorite in a lot of people's minds going into this week. And she came out the gates hot. Like I said, she had a 2-stroke lead over Holland and over the field, I think. She shot 9 under that first round, but then shot even round 2, and that basically shot her out of the tournament at Sunset Hills. So there just was no coming back. So Holland was able to just kind of dominate the field and give her a nice little confidence boost here.
Well, this is the good Holland, and I think Holland is still trending upwards. She posted, it's funny, she posted on her Instagram like, she's relatively new to disc golf, and she posted like her form from like 2019 and like year by year, and it's crazy how much better it's gotten. But I think she might be, I mean, Kristen is kind of exempt to any of this talk, but I think other than that, she might be like the highest ceiling player in the FPO division. I think when she is playing well, she just proved it, but she looks incredibly dominant, has so many different shots. When her putt is on, it's very, very effective from outside the circle as well. I think she's a good athlete in general. I think Holland is a very good player, and I'm glad that she is finding her way onto the podium more often this season. I think we're still seeing that upwards trend. we've seen this before, right? We mentioned, we just talked about Haley King, but Ella Hansen. There's a lot of young players over the past 4 or 5 years that have kind of come up through the ranks a little bit, but a lot of them have struggled to have the same kind of consistency that I think Holland has found. She's really started to find a rhythm, and I think Missy Ganon, she's a great player, and I think she's going to beat a lot of people when they're not on their game, but there's just a few, and I think Holland is in this category where when she's playing her best, there's not many that are going to beat her. I mean, Kristen would be one of them, but in this field, the way it is right now, I mean, that was definitely a dominant performance and great momentum for Holland. She's going to be really dangerous at the World Championships.
That's a funny thing that you just said that, Trevor, because I was going to talk about, actually I still will briefly, and then we'll get into this next topic, because Missy, I had said I wanted to just kind of highlight, I didn't want my Missy point from earlier to take away from Holland, because yes, Missy shot even round 2, and that did kind of shoot her out of the tournament, but realistically, she would have, at the end of the day, had to shoot 11 under that second round to have tied Holland. She lost by 11, but it's because she shot 9 under round 1, but then in round 3 and 4 she went 5-4, and that just wasn't gonna cut it. So even though she shot even round 2, it's not like if she would have shot 3 under, she wins.
People. A lot of times, disc golf, at the end of the day, yes, is it player versus the course? Sure. But people discredit a lot of times the head-to-head aspect of disc golf. When you are on a card, and especially a card of 4, and you get shoved to the back of the tee, or somebody just takes command of the tee, and you're just watching the person you're battling with throw shot after shot after shot and having to follow it up, there is a psychological effect there. Like, there's a reason more often than not, not more often than not, but more often than in past years, because of the depth of our field, we see chase cards make moves, and that's a big part of that is the lead card can get stuck in their bubble a little bit, and it becomes a bit of a chess match. So I think sometimes you might see, this player had an awful round 2. Well, that might be partly because they were watching somebody they're playing against have an incredible round 2 and feeling that pressure.
Yeah. Now, you just had mentioned Holland heading into Worlds. After the round, Ian and Zoe Andike also were calling Holland a favorite to win Worlds, even asked her about it, and some people on Reddit did not like this at all. And if you go to the tournament summary, you can find a bunch of different comments, but I pulled out this one because Status Exact 3037 on Reddit said, how on earth can Ian even talk about Holland as a world's favorite when she has never won a major, has never won with Kristen in the field, and the way Kristen, Evelina, Silva, and Missy have played recently? Great win for Holland, but that was tough to listen to.
If you are going to double down or triple down or whatever and make an absolute take on the predictability of FPO, you're already playing a losing game. Like, you could tell me right now that Silva Saarinen is a favorite to win Worlds, or whoever. Anything can happen. You cannot sit here, and especially throwing Evelina's name in there, like she's some kind of solid favorite. She might just miss 80% of her putts inside of C1X. Kristen Tatar herself will self-destruct sometimes. It's not absurd to say Holland, coming off of a win and a player who has a very high ceiling, because it's really the only way you can pick the favorites in FPO division. You're not going to pick them on consistency, really. You're going to have to pick them off your ceiling, maybe other than Kristen. Saying that's a ridiculous take is hilarious, because it's some of those players mentioned might take 20th.
The only good argument I saw against calling her a favorite is simply that Sunset Hills, if it was going to translate to one, would be Ivy. I think Ivy's going to play tougher. Yeah. But you got New London.
Yeah.
I think that if Ledgestone would have been a great Worlds tell had it been Northwood still involved, especially in FPO, where you have a more open golf course with a lot of OB, which is what Ivy's going to play like. And if they would have had the teeth of Northwood, then I think the winner of Ledgestone could have been a direct correlation to Worlds.
She's not my front runner, but you got to she's one of the 5 players you have to like.
I put her in my top 5. I think she's number 4 or 5 though.
You definitely can't be wrong by calling her a favorite.
Because right now,
that's pretty safe.
Yeah. Right now, I would probably say you have correct me if I'm missing anybody out here, but you'd have Kristen, Missy, Own, and then I'd probably go Holland Silva.
I would flip the last 2 only because of New London.
In any order. I'm just saying those 5, those are probably the 5 I'm looking at the closest.
Yeah, I think Evelina has a really solid shot.
It's just 5 rounds of putting. No.
Yeah. The New London and Ivy, I think, are both going to play very well for throwers courses, but I think that also leans towards Holland's favor too. It's not just
it's
Evelina's
not like
favor.
Champions Cup where you're just going to have so many players getting crushed off the tee that you can just make it all up there.
Well, because you also have the final 2 rounds are at Ivy. The final 2 rounds are in an open course.
Yeah.
But, Holland still, I think Holland is playing Idlewild next week. So there is one more event to either lose all of that momentum she just built.
What is her? If you look at like her last 5, like what does it look like?
Oh, she's great.
Yeah,
she's great. She just didn't go to Europe.
Yeah.
Is why we haven't heard of her in a while. Because if you look recently, her only blemishes on the season is early in the year she went 16th at Open in Austin, 10th at U.S. Women's, and then 10th at Champions Cup. But since then she's went 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 5th, 1st.
But it's preposterous to say she's a favorite for Worlds.
I didn't say that.
I'm just like, that just cracks me up.
Status exact 3037.
Well, it's even funnier. They were like offended. Like, how on earth?
Yeah. I do agree that I think that you have to call her a favorite. I think it's crazy to not call her a. I think if they would have said you're the favorite, sure.
Yeah.
Then you can be like, well, Kristen wasn't here. Sure. But a favorite, I mean, that's a.
It is really funny.
Especially in FPO.
It's very funny to get super worked up over like a very loose term.
Yeah, it's
like a favorite. A favorite? Like one of the like 3 players that can win? Like a favorite?
Yeah. Now, the final thing we have to talk about on FPO is the celebratory slip and slide. I don't know. Nothing to me, I don't know about to y'all, but nothing quite says like, I just want a professional sporting event. Like during my... I just won. I step off the course interview, right, where I'm just talking to Brian Earhart about how I just took down Ledgestone. They asked me if I'm excited to go down the slip and slide.
I would have done it, to be clear.
And then
I want to make that take. I would have done it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Let me separate this into 2 different parts here. Okay. Because here's facts of the day.
Facts of the
Very
day.
hot in Illinois.
Yeah.
Some players were, I think we had James Proctor dropped out due to heat exhaustion.
Gosh dang.
Hannah Wynn, I think she either DNF'd or she at least posted on her story about how she felt like she was about to pass out, but she finished the round and had to be like carted off the course at 18.
Oh my gosh.
So very hot day. Okay. Slip and slides are great on hot days. Having a slip and slide at the course, that is a fun thing.
Yeah.
Right? That's a great after the round, let's all go have some fun on the slip and slide. That all can happen.
Yeah.
And it not be the like, let's make a thing out of this for the winner
and
cover it for like 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
Like the amount of FPO players I had to see go down that slip and slide. Like Ella Hansen was freaking, they cut to Ella Hansen. She's signing autographs with 3 pool tubes holding them. And then they cover her waddling. Like, that's fun. That's great. That's a great social post.
Yeah, well, it's
right. Let's put that on Instagram.
In my opinion,
this is the coverage. Like we're doing. Like Tournament Central hasn't even started yet. This is still during the main broadcast, and they're like literally in both interviews of her. She just won an Elite Series, a Pro Tour Plus event. In both interviews, she's being asked if she's excited to go down the slip and slide. Like, what are we doing?
In my opinion, like, it's a fun clip.
Slip and slide.
If it's a fun clip, if like the slip and slide was just there, it was there for the fans, and Holland,
she like
and
ran
Holland
over.
was like, I want to do that, and it's like, oh my gosh, like Holland is like, she's like woman of the people,
completely different.
Like asking her about this, like I don't know.
The course tournament director, they like have this like whole camera shot.
And it was like a slow start too. She kind of was like struggling until she got to the hill. Like you gotta at least bomb it.
They also side note, as someone who's built many slip and slides, I took offense to this statement that Zoe Andike called it one of the biggest slip and slides in the world.
Oh my
that thing was like 20 feet long.
Well,
come on.
Side note,
like if you're doing any kind of disc golf production, like we would never incorporate a
like
slip and slide.
Extreme slip and slide disc golf.
No.
Who would do that?
That's messed up.
That's
we
messed
would
up.
never.
Yeah. Too far.
We would never.
But the other funny thing I thought was like the course TD was waiting for her after her interviews, and then they like documented her drive to the slip and slide in a golf cart as if it was like this big thing of like she's being escorted over to the slip and slide. I'm like, what are we doing? And they get over there. It's just like the whole FPO field standing there waiting for her.
You know what they should have done is
and you had like Madison Walker going down right in front of her, and they're like filming Madison, like, oh, there goes Madison. Wow. Like they should have had like judges on the side, like style points.
They should have had records. No, they should have filled her trophy with soapy water and just dump it down the slide in front of her.
I was just watching and I'm like, guys, like I understand this is fun. I'm all for fun.
Maybe the tournament
Hunter certified for fun.
How about this?
Like, let's just let the tournament be over.
If you can secure
and then go have fun.
It is pretty crazy.
If you can secure Dawn dish soap as your presenting sponsor, then you can do slip and slide, and only then. If it's an activation,
maybe yeah.
They should do that to get from down the hills at D-Glow this year. after you throw your tee shot.
Just slip and slide down.
Think about
Dude,
that.
how fun would that be?
That would be the
like
world's biggest slip
a
and
pitch
slide.
and putt disc golf course that like each one is down another tier.
just all
so
downhill.
you slip and slide down to the basket.
Like I said, a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But we're talking about like one of the highest end
They should do that for Worlds.
events. Like how much did Holland win?
Probably
a
like
lot.
12.
She went down a slip and slide.
Probably like 12 or 10 or 12.
Let's look at this.
That
Let's
is
look at this.
crazy.
Ganon won 15.
Like
I
she
mean,
won,
that-
she won $9,000, and they're asking her if she's excited to get on a slip and slide. You know how many slip and slides you could buy with $9,000?
I don't know how.
Other
I mean,
than-
it's not that clip isn't gonna get torn apart because nobody's gonna see it except for disc golfers. But I feel like Barstool would have a field day with that clip.
It's hilarious. It's a funny clip.
I've always said there's a lot of stuff in disc golf that is just so funny. Like people would just like, what?
I was watching
Slip and
it, and
slide,
I filmed it on my.
We had two nominees for clip of the day because I need to write down the slip and slide thing for the grippies as well.
That is a good.
We're gonna have such a good grippies this year because I've been really on top of it, and like we've already got like 5 that are so funny. But clip of the year, they 2 nominees. We had the slip and slide, and then we had the roller heard around the world.
Yeah, which I was gonna talk about this later, but we'll talk about it now.
So
So Double G round, was it 1 or 2?
2, hole
Round
16.
2. So he's on lead card, round 2. Double G. Hole 16 is the hole where there's all the bushes on the right, OB left. A lot of players throw this tight roller that kind of cuts close to OB and comes back in. Well, Double G's is on a really good angle, to be honest with you. It's on it cuts on a cut angle,
Find this
cuts
clip
OB.
on Reddit, by the way.
It stands up and it is coming back in bounds. And the spotter, the
Like
second,
guarantee coming back.
yeah,
in bounds.
definitely, like almost back in bounds already when this
Yeah.
happens. And the spotter, the second spotter on the hole, is watching it, and we can't exactly tell his intentions, but he is making direct eye contact with the disc for a long time, and he's standing in the way of the disc for a long time. And it looked like he was trying to line up, letting it go between his legs.
I think it's a guarantee.
That's what it seemed like.
Guarantee.
It seemed like he was
man.
trying to
He's trying to get
get
cute
ready.
with it.
He was trying to like get ready to straddle it, like, oh, this is gonna be a fun clip.
Yeah.
And it hit a root or something, took a jump straight into the chest.
Oh my!
And it falls
God.
OB.
The best part is, so like, yeah,
Oh my
I think
gosh.
it's guaranteed what he was trying to do. He got too cute with it, gets in the way, pops up in the chest, lands out of bounds, and then you can tell there's a split second of panic. Turns, sees the camera pointed right at him, and just kind of stands there, like
Didn't even wave the red
When you
flag.
walk into your parents' room and you're like, "I peed the bed," like that's what it looked like. He just stood there, like, I wish I could just evaporate.
And then
He just
it
wanted to
cuts,
teleport away.
It cuts back to Double G
That's-
on the tee
he
with
was
his hands
so
on his head,
mad.
like, you got to be kidding me, because
Like,
he's watching the whole
Yeah,
thing.
Like
that's
and
worst
we've got to the
nightmare
point
right there.
now where like stuff like that could be the difference of $100 or so. Like that's.
Well, let's just see where Double G ended. Actually,
That's
if he
crazy.
finished like a few strokes out of like a certain cash amount, like
because like it was a bomb roller, like it was going
Dude,
far.
it popped up and just hit him right square in the chest.
So Garrett Gerthy came in 41st.
How many strokes was he?
1 stroke out of 35th, which would have made him another $120. But he was 2 strokes out of
it could have been a 2-stroke swing.
2 strokes out of another $200. 3 strokes out of $300.
That's what I'm saying. Like stuff like that.
And it was round 2, so
Yes.
you don't know how it mentally affected him.
Stuff like that
round 3 and
matters,
4.
man. It matters.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Now a lot of people were like calling for like action, like this is why we need better, spectator training, like or spotter training and blah blah blah. At the end of the day, like
it was an anomaly.
I don't think you got to tell someone not to
Yeah.
straddle a roller.
Right.
Like it's just
Lesson
the
learned.
dude just tried to get cute with it. It
Yeah.
popped up.
Nobody's
trying
ever
to
going to try that again.
I was
Yeah.
trying to find the clip of it on YouTube.
It's
but
not really
not
a
there.
like. I don't think it's a flaw of Ledgestone. The tournament's not have
No.
trained their spotter better,
Yeah.
because like who's gonna be like, hey, by the way, if a roller's coming your way, I know your
wanna
innate
let it go through the
desire
wickets.
is gonna be straddle that thing, get nutmeg bugged. All right, we
Straddle
all
that
know,
thing.
right? That's a
Hunter
blast. Don't do it. Like that's not gonna be part of training. Training's just gonna be like inbound green, outbound red. Stay out of their way. That's that.
And
Yeah.
maybe you can hold a lightsaber.
Maybe, yeah, and
If
maybe
if you get
if you
upgraded to
wanna- yeah.
lightsaber spotter,
You can
then
have
you're
like
in the
if
big
you
leagues.
want like a cute thing, maybe Mickey Mouse gloves.
or you can either go, yeah, you want to bring the Geico costume.
Yeah,
That's hole 16 at Des Moines.
just like don't touch the disc.
Yeah.
It's like the only thing you can't do. Like, don't touch the disc. Just
In his defense, the disc touched him. It's a
perfect-
He was
like-
completely out of the way of the disc, and it jumped into his chest.
I think that's the best example we have of an intrusive thought by a spotter.
Yeah.
He was watching it.
that
and he
could
was
be
like,
the
"Oh,
Grippy
I
Award.
can't-
Intrusive thought.
Okay, here we go.
Oh my god.
Intrusive thought of the year so far. We have that. We have the tournament director to decide.
The person who grabbed it up out of the water.
Yeah, the
spotter of the year.
Spotter of the year. We might have to.
Oh my goodness.
Back to the slip
Write
and
down,
slide.
Trev.
I just want to know
I am.
who's imagine just sitting in the planning meeting. And you're like, guys, look, it's gonna be a toasty week. What if we put a slip and slide out there for the players? Oh, great idea. Great perk. That'll be a lot of fun. Players can hang out after. Blah blah blah. Okay. Hear me out now. Some events have you jump in the lake if you win. What if?
Yeah, that's totally where it went.
What if we cart the winner straight to the slip and slide?
I'm betting this is how it went. It went, I love the lake thing. Well, MVP already does the lake. Let's do something else with water. How about a slip and slide?
You might as well have handed her a super
what
soaker.
Do the kids
I mean,
love these days?
Hey, why don't you shoot your competitors that came in second and third with it?
That'd
be more fun.
Yeah, electric.
The thing is, though, at the same time, it's the most disc golf thing I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, it's so. You know what I want?
hate it.
You guys
I know. I hate
ever
that
do
it's
the water parks where the water bucket slowly fills up and then it dumps. That's what they should do.
Yeah.
They should stand on the podium and have to wait for that thing to fill up and then it just dumps on them.
Yeah.
Brutal. All right, now an MPO.
I can't think of something more silly.
Yeah.
I can't think of something
That's what I'm
more
saying.
silly than that.
Slip is that's sick. Did you just win an event at church camp or something? What?
It's
Yeah. No, I just
they
won
came in first in their
$10,000.
youth camp disc golf tournament.
Yeah.
Everybody had fun.
Okay.
Fun wins.
Ganon Burr.
It's a good point. You can't argue at Hunter whenever everybody had fun.
Everybody had fun.
Yeah. On Twitter, I sent a tweet out and I was about to go hard, and then I remembered we made a video called Extreme Slip and Slide Disc Golf.
On
I was
our entertainment channel.
Yeah, but I was just we need to go ahead and I need to go ahead and hit myself with that punch before someone else does.
Slip and slides are always just in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Just kind of thinking man, I wish I had a slip and slide.
Man, I remember in elementary school when that slip and slide was there.
I remember 2 years ago.
Well, we brought it back.
Yeah, we made him cool again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently,
Nobody was
it
slip and
sucked.
sliding.
They saw our
They
video.
saw the video and they're like, wow, 1/3 of their
saw
normal
our
audience
video.
loved this video.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's the best part. Nobody
Wait,
even liked our video.
somebody saw that video.
Ganon Burr, back to reality.
Sure.
Ganon Burr, unreal this year. He just won his 5th time. He won by 7 strokes. Is that right? Did MPO and FPO both win by 7? I think they did. That's crazy. Won by 7
and he
strokes.
started out kind of slow.
The Player of the Year race is obviously not over yet, but it's basically impossible. If Ian Anderson was commentating on the Player of the Year race, he would say it's done.
Yeah, it would be definitely Ian Anderson done.
Yeah, Ian Anderson done. So that basically means pretty much impossible, but not impossible. For someone to overtake his resume at this point, it would definitely take. Really, there's only players that could do it are Anthony Barella, Ricky Wysocki, maybe Calvin.
If you were to win,
Yeah. Well, there's still majors
There's still
left.
plenty of events left on the table,
Yeah.
but it's going to take somebody to put together an insane, 8 weeks or so to pass him.
Yeah, I mean, 5 wins in a season is wild.
And we're at this point in the season too, where there's just a lot of courses that certain players really like to win at. It's gonna be tough to just grab a bunch of wins.
Yeah. Now, similar to Holland, he was also 2 back after round 1. He took the lead in round 2. He then extended his lead in round 3 and 4. In the final round, he definitely left the door open a little bit. There was different times where he would take a double bogey. For instance, hole 2, he doubled, but the rest of the lead card parted.
Yeah, so nobody was taking
no
the chances
one was
early
taking the
on.
chances because
Yeah.
Ganon only shot 1 under on the front 9.
Yeah.
So he had the door open multiple times
Yeah.
for people to walk through. He then went 8 under on the back 9, but it's hard to know what would have happened on that back 9 had someone pushed him on the front.
The guys that were firing, had Jake Hebenheimer and Paul. Paul especially had a scorcher, but they were too far back.
They were too far back. Yeah. But that's just Ganon Burr doing Ganon Burr things. He just, when he gets out in front and he gets on fire, he's just hard for people to catch. And like I said, it's not like he didn't misstep, but he just wasn't challenged when he did. So he didn't really get punished for his missteps in the final round. And he had a big enough cushion that even if he would have, it probably wouldn't have mattered. You really, really have to like Ganon coming into Worlds. Obviously, we got Idlewild next week. Some players, Idlewild's going to be a little bit of a wounded field just because some players are already making the trek towards Worlds. But we do have Idlewild this weekend. But you still, this tournament does depict the rounds at Ivy are going to be depicted by Eureka Temp. I do really wish this event needs Northwood. So going forward, in my opinion, even if we had 4 rounds at Northwood at Champions Cup, I still would have liked to have seen it here for 2 rounds.
It wouldn't have bothered me.
Because I think this tournament was just worse being only Sunset and only Eureka.
Yeah.
It just wasn't as good of an event.
No.
It was it was more boring to watch overall. There just wasn't like, even though you had different greens and stuff, and like 4 rounds in one course is just, it's never going to be but so entertaining. To be completely honest,
there's only a few courses that can really make that like super.
You would need like different tee pads and different pins, or like the pins need to be drastically different. Like 17 was good to have like 2 different islands there, but like they weren't that different.
Yeah,
it was like sure, it's a little bit more over the water, a little bit longer, but like it's literally right next to each other.
Yeah,
basically the same hole. But Ganon and Burr just unreal. The other storyline I want to hit on here was the Robinson brothers. I couldn't find if they are truly the first, but they have to be one of maybe the second. They were the first siblings. I'm calling them the first to be on a Pro Tour final round lead card together.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
I just like who else would have done it?
They've probably been. They haven't done it this year.
They might have already done it themselves.
I'm just saying
but
because
like,
I feel like they've been close this year. I don't know if they've actually done it.
I saw Isaac posted that he was like excited for it to have happened. I think they both finished in the top 5. I don't know if they both got a lead card.
Yeah, what was the last event that Isaac was?
Actually, I can tell you if they did it because I'll read Isaac's
so
post.
Fun. That'd be so fun.
That's wild.
Yeah, because they've been playing like they've been like the fringe guys this season where they can't seem to get the wins, but they've been having a pretty consistent season.
Yeah, he said a dream come true to play on a lead card with that shot. It must not have happened yet for them.
That's crazy.
I bet the vibes were high.
Vibes had to be high.
Well, yeah, because they're also both friends with Ganon, who's also on that card.
Yeah, that was a vibes card.
Yeah,
sure.
very high vibe card.
Yeah.
So a lot of blast there. But
a lot of blast.
Yeah, beyond that, you know, like I had said during the because Paul had been building a lot of momentum. Obviously, he's one of the favorites, one of the favorites to win Worlds, just because
a favorite.
Yes. One of the.
Can we talk about Brody Smith?
But he started off very poorly.
He cashed.
He was not Brody. Paul started off very poorly. I think he was like 2 or 3 over through 5, maybe 4 over. I'm trying to look 2, 4.
It was bad.
2, 3, 4. Yeah, 4 over through 5 holes to start. After that, though, he ended up just charging the rest of the tournament to finish inside the top 10 at 26 under. I had said on the preview show, watch out for jet lag. Going to be a big thing. Traveling with the baby. I feel like that might have been a pretty good take because I said take Ledgestone with a grain of salt. Mm-hmm. The finish of this tournament showed me Paul's game's still just fine.
So what is your
Idlewild? I think will be a really good tell. He's very comfortable there. Let's make sure he's playing. He's not one of the players missing. I think Idlewild would be a really good tell here. He's not playing it. Never mind. So he's going straight to Worlds. So he's coming straight here next. Because Idlewild would have been a really good tell for us, but I really like him at Worlds. He's gonna get
himself in the mix, I'm sure.
New London better than anyone else. Ivy, I would say he also knows probably better than anyone else because we've had the battle for Bedford there, but like most players didn't really play it. He was a part of the design process. I don't think he's the true full designer, but he was a part of all that. He's seen that property a bunch. He knows what to expect more than pretty much every player in the field coming into it. And so knowledge of both courses is going to go a long way there. And then we've always said New London was basically designed for Paul to win Worlds at. Like it is just the shots that New London asks for are the shots that Paul's the best at. And his game is getting hot fast at the right time. Let's actually look at statistically like what Paul did out there. Like was his putter on all weekend? If it loads. Is it going to load? All right.
There you go.
Paul McBeth rounds all. So 87% C1X putting. Let's look at round 1, how bad round
really
one was and see. I got to go way down to find Paul. Round 1.
He might have shot 4 or 3.
He's right here. 80% though round 1. So he did have a little bit of a rough putting round 1. So I don't know. It'll be interesting just to see when his game where his game's at. They start Ivy, then they go New London, then Ivy, then New London, then Ivy. So yeah, I think coming out of realistically, you just got to be in it through the first 3 rounds. The New London. No, it must go New London, Ivy, New London, Ivy.
Yeah, I think so.
So.
Yeah.
I like it starting at New London for him, too, because he could very easily have the hot round at New London. Yeah. And so if he can, come out the gates and, put himself in contention.
I just don't trust him for 5 rounds anymore to not lay an egg.
Well, here's the problem that he's going to face is Ganon Burr across a long tournament just isn't really getting beat.
He's going to put up a lot of
because
numbers.
there's been 5 4-round tournaments this year, and he's won 4 of them. Is that the right? I think the only one he missed was Champions Cup.
I think so.
Because Waco was a plus event. This was a plus event.
All 3 of the Elite Pluses.
European Open was a plus event, and then Portland was a plus event.
Yeah,
I believe, or something like that. But he's won 4 of the 5 4-round events. So that points to, hey, if there's more than 3 rounds, the best player is going to rise to the top. Well, we have 5 rounds here, and the courses play just fine to Ganon Burr.
Yeah.
It's not like they're only playing good to Paul McBeth. But I do like Paul getting in the mix more than normal. But there's a lot of players to contend with out there. So Ganon Burr obviously is the favorite to win Worlds, but I would say Paul has put his name in the hat as one of them out there. So Manufacturer Cup.
You.
Yeah. Can't wait for Reddit to take over that one.
They won't.
No.
They love him.
What'd you call his fans? The Paw Patrol? That's freaking funny.
That didn't sound like something I said.
That's very funny.
Manufacturer Cup update. Discmania retakes the lead back from Discraft, scoring 32 points, led by Ganon Burr's 5th win of the season. The Robinson brothers both finished inside the top 6, giving Prodigy the 2nd most points in the week. Innova had the 3rd, with Calvin and Kevin Jones finishing in the top 5.
We got to talk about that boy KJ
USA, baby.
He's starting to have life in his game again. It's crazy. KJ
Frizzes,
for Worlds.
baby. That was Innova's play.
Gotcha.
All you had to do is have him play a little better, and everyone's like, oh, it's the Frisbee's holding him back. He's needed destroyers again. And then Jakub Cimarron has almost single-handedly brought Latitude 64th up to 8th place in the standing. We'll actually talk about who's single-handedly doing what here in a second on the Manufacturers Cup. So top 10s, we have Discmania in the lead, Discraft in 2nd. They're head and shoulders above the rest of the field. They have a 200-plus point lead over the rest. Then you have Innova in 3rd, Dynamic in 4th, Prodigy in 5th, Castplast 6th, DGA 7th, Latitude 8th, Westside 9th, ThoughtSpace 10th. ThoughtSpace clean on that top 10. So this is the individuals who are leading the Manufacturer Cup points-wise. Ganon Burr has earned Discmania 221 points by himself, which would put him in 4th place if he was just playing by himself. That's crazy. He's earned 221 points. Ricky Waisaki's earned the 2nd most points at 193 for Dynamic, which is this amount of points Dynamic has. Then Anthony Barella's earned the 3rd most points at 136 points for Discraft. Calvin comes in at 4th at 135 for Innova, and Niklas at 5th with 122. Fun name here, number 6 on the list, Paul McBeth for Discraft.
Wow.
That's surprising to me.
Well, he's been sitting in the top 10 now for quite a while.
Yeah, he has 4 podiums and 4 top 10s.
Yeah.
Now, players with 50% plus of their team's points. I think this is a fun stat. So, Matty O has won 100% of Westside's points.
He is Westside.
It is interesting. He put Ricky Waisaki has earned 99% of the sponsors' points at 193, but Dynamic only has 193 points. So, I'll have to ask Edwin where that 1%, what that means.
What the?
Maybe he split it with someone, they both earned 1.
Oh, maybe. That could
maybe it's something like that. I don't know. But
each got a half point.
Yeah, something like that. But regardless, Ricky's in 2nd at 99%. And then you have James Proctor has earned ThoughtSpace Athletics 95% of their points, meaning Eric Oakley or someone got the other 5%.
I think it was Gilbert.
Thomas Gilbert, you're right, I think. Simon Lazat has earned MVP 90% of their points. Calvin Heimberg has earned Innova 58% of their points. And then Joey Buckets, Joseph Anderson, has earned Castblast 55% of their points. So a little fun, one step deeper look. But Discmania leading the field. I actually wanted to also talk about this. I forgot to put it on here, but someone on Twitter was tweeting at me. And that's what you do on Twitter about who won the off season now? Talking about Discmania. And the one thing I'll say, obviously performance-wise, you can't argue against Discmania. No way around it. We haven't fully seen it translate to sales yet.
No.
And that's the interesting thing is MVP still won this offseason. Yeah. Even with their players not performing so far.
Well, what I will say is I don't know that MVP has really ramped up that much with the Eagle Edition. I think that they got to a huge place with Simon and they've kept that place, so they're still outperforming
they've moved
sales. But I don't know
a lot of discs.
But I don't know that I've seen this a second round of ramp up necessarily. I'll at least say that. Well, you do have to think they certainly blew this.
The Eagle Envies sold like crazy. The Wind Dragon just sold like crazy.
Yeah, no, Eagle still moved disc much better. Discmania.
I'll be curious how
they just really haven't been able to figure it out since they moved to the trilogy stuff. It moves somewhat, but it's just not moving the way.
I'll be curious what the Cloudbreaker does. Ganon's new Cloudbreaker.
I think there's just there seems to be a cap on a trilogy made disc because so many people have their opinions set on it.
Yeah.
To where
not trilogy made, man. It's made by Discmania. House of Discs made.
Yeah, and it's
Wouldn't go
good.
there.
It's good plastic. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. But I just saw that like tweet and I was like, well, it depends. Like if you're looking just straight performance, obviously Discmania just dog walked the entire field.
yeah.
It just hasn't translated to sales yet. And I'm curious how long this dominance has to continue for it to translate to sales.
You have to, I mean, yeah, you have to start hitting like. What I will say is Ganon does seem positioned really, really well as the guy that if I think the kids that are getting into the sport right now to like young teenagers, like that's probably a guy that they're looking at is Ganon Burr, and so therefore they'll throw Discmania like they did with Eagle and Simon. So I do think that Discmania has at least got that going for him. I think a lot of the older generation, like it's going to be tough to shift them around. We're kind of set in our ways. You know, Discraft did so much, did so well because Paul was still the main guy during when the COVID boom happened, right? So like that was a huge opportunity and influx of players. So, but because I think if we had another boom like that, I think that Discmania would grab a good bit of market share because of Ganon. So I think you sometimes it's just like you need something to happen for you to like really feel that performance, because Ganon, yeah, he's always on coverage, he's always at the top of the leaderboard. That does do something, but it will take time unless something exterior happens, basically.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's time for the fan favorite segment of Trevor's Trivia right after these messages.
Hit him with the Trev.
All right.
Oh, we got an Englishman.
That would be Australian.
Well,
Yeah.
this hardly seems like my fault.
That's fair.
It's not. Yeah, it's not your fault. All right.
I didn't make Australians, Trevor.
So what I've got here is a UDisc article, and they've listed the top 10 disc golf destinations in the United States. They have two top 10 lists.
How did they determine this?
It's subjective because
okay.
It doesn't just mean how many courses are there. So now
like,
I will say,
there's a beach.
I will
close to this
I will
one.
give you this hint. There's two lists. There's one for states and one for cities. The states list is much more heavily correlated to the saturation of courses.
Okay.
Much
Okay.
more. The cities one, you kind of have to use your own brain for that. But these are the cities that UDisc has decided are the top 10 destinations to go play disc golf.
Okay.
And they do, and all of those cities do have an ample amount of courses, but it's not necessarily just structured. The way this works is you guys are going to each get 5 guesses. You're guessing for either a state or a city. There's 10 in each. So if you guess the number 1, you get 10 points, and it'll go down as you get to 10 would be worth 1. Cities are worth double points because they are significantly harder. So you can just go ahead and cherry pick the states.
How, may I ask another question?
Mm-hmm.
Like we'll just use.
Like you're asking how specific.
Let's use Lynchburg. Okay.
Uh-huh.
If I said Lynchburg, would it include would it factor in courses from Bedford?
The cities on
True, because
here.
the destination is the city. It doesn't mean all the disc golf in the city.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what it means.
True.
I don't.
You get what I'm saying?
I don't know how the list is necessarily factoring that. What I will.
Well, is there anything on there that you look at and you're like, well, that course isn't technically in that city?
No. I don't
Okay.
think you're gonna make a mistake like that. I don't think so. Okay, Konner, you can go first.
I'm trying to decide if I want to go right off the bat with a city. I know
Because if you guess and it's a blank, that's obviously 0 points
Yeah.
for that guess. So that's
I
where
know
the cities are tougher.
of a state, but I'm fond of a city choice. I'm gonna go North Carolina.
Thank goodness.
North Carolina is number 5 on the states, so
Okay.
that is 5 points.
I would like Charlotte.
Charlotte is number 2 in the cities list.
I was too scared to take Charlotte. I didn't know. I didn't
so
know
that's
if they were
worth
gonna do it in a
9
way that made
points.
sense.
Well,
That's worth a double.
Huh? Oh yeah,
18.
9 points. It was 18 points total.
Oh, thank you.
Konner, your second guess.
I'll go. Do I just hit him with it?
Hit him with it.
Do I just hit him with it?
Hit him with it, baby. Come on.
No, that's stupid. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go with Florida.
It's not on the list.
Okay.
I'll take Texas.
Texas is number 1 on the states list.
Come on.
Has 10 points.
Then I'm gonna go. Dang it, I'm so scared. I think all my choices are stupid. I know this should be one. So I'm gonna go Massachusetts.
Massachusetts is not on the list.
Okay,
I'll take.
okay. Maple Hill seriously is the best disc golf
That's why I
destination
was
in the
asking
world.
because like I would have said Boston,
Like I said,
but I don't think it would go
like
there.
I said,
Yeah.
the states list is much more predicated on the amount of courses.
I think I'll go Austin, Texas.
that is the number one city.
Yes.
Dang it! I was literally gonna say Austin for that one.
So that's 40. No, 20 points.
20.
20 points.
Okay, I'll go with. Colorado.
Colorado is not on the list.
Wow, that one surprises me.
Yeah, I feel like I got wrecked by that one. Why? Why? Excuse me. Why?
Like I said, the
Mr.
state,
Disc.
the
how
states
come?
is the states is a little trickier because it's much more
Oh,
predicated.
so then Denver, Colorado.
Denver is not.
Thank
That's
goodness.
okay.
You
That
would have
really
seen
surprised me.
You would have seen my body dissipate.
I disagree with that point. Denver should be higher.
I agree.
There's just not a ton of courses in the mountains. Like there's like 3 or 4 that were like high ranked courses. A lot of these ones on here are pretty saturated.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
But
with,
some of them are very interesting. Like you'll be interested to hear some of these cities. There's some interesting ones.
Georgia.
Georgia.
Nope.
That's depressing. I almost said Georgia earlier. Jeffersonville,
Georgia's
Vermont.
got a lot of courses.
Nope.
Okay, so we're gonna say the GMC isn't one of the top 10
these
destinations.
These are the top 10 states. Like I said, this is
Was that number 5 for my guess?
Yes.
Oh.
This is
Dang.
mostly
All right, well, I won.
mostly
Great
based
job, Hunter.
on
Thank you.
volume of courses.
I got the 1 and 2.
But the
so I
states
got what I
list,
wanted.
the states list was Texas, Michigan, California, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Minnesota,
Wisconsin?
Ohio, Illinois,
Michigan?
Iowa, Kansas.
Michigan makes sense.
They have
What
a
do
lot
they
of
got in
courses.
Wisconsin?
They have a lot of courses. That's what they have. Like that's what I'm saying.
Jeez.
The states, they have 450 courses. Cities, this one is not just predicated on the amount of courses. You have number 1 is Austin, then
Yeah.
Charlotte, then Tyler, Texas, then Tulsa, Oklahoma, Nashville, Houston, Emporia,
Nashville?
Rock Hill, Indianapolis, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
How's
Rock
Rock
Hill?
Hill and
Rock
Rock
Hill?
Hill and Charlotte can't be on the same list?
They
That's
claim-
just cheating.
Well, and Rock Hill. There's
Rock
nothing.
Hill, they claim 19 courses to the Rock Hill city.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. There's a lot of courses
but
there,
like
but
Boyd
like,
Hill,
That's
you can
what-
play disc golf and get stabbed.
I think some of them. It's interesting. Like Rock Hill, they obviously bias pretty heavy based on a course that usually isn't even roped.
yeah,
and
it's
then
not
like, and then
roped.
like they don't bias
And you don't know what
Massachusetts
format it's
based
gonna be
on
in.
like the Maple Hill. So
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Very.
Also,
I
what-
honestly wanted to do this because I thought this list
what
was
was
just
the
fascinating.
other? Read them again. The cities.
Austin, Charlotte, Tyler, Tulsa.
Yeah, what's in Tyler, Texas? Just the Texas States
no,
courses?
I think Tyler.
That's like an hour outside of Dallas.
It has a bunch. I think Tyler, Texas was like the old school. Like I remember people used to talk about Tyler, Texas being like.
Well, that's where Texas States has always been.
Yeah. They claim how many courses?
So this is just like we have a lot of courses here.
No, well, no. Like I said, they're not all they're not all structured that way. Like Indianapolis only has 13. Bowling Green has 12. Like some of these on these lists have
What's
30.
in Indianapolis?
Indianapolis is just a major city. It's like a pretty.
Well, why isn't Denver?
trendy city?
Like
I don't know.
When you look at the courses, like
I don't
probably
know.
what they're rating it on is like the amount of high rated courses in the area, because like there's quite a few in Indianapolis. It looks like.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't have a
never-
problem with you. I have a problem with you
I
disc list.
thought
Why
it was
not Massachusetts?
I thought it was a very interesting list.
Because like I that's why I was what I'm
Maybe it's a
wondering
little
is
outdated. I don't know.
I'm wondering if their data doesn't allow them to pull like Leicester, Mass is too far outside of Boston to put
Right.
Boston on there.
Sure.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
sure, that
That's
makes
what I was
sense.
trying to get at earlier.
Yeah.
Of like if that's like too like Denver,
Yeah.
we were technically in like Littleton and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if that's like well Denver isn't
Mm-hmm.
because like I wonder if their data. I wonder if Indianapolis is just really big, and so like a bunch of courses are in Indianapolis.
Tough to say.
Indianapolis. You remember that commercial?
Yep.
Long time ago.
Yeah, those were the.
It was when they were pulling into Annapolis, Maryland.
I'm in Indianapolis.
Yeah, Indianapolis, and then he's like Indianapolis. You had to see the
That's a
commercial,
great
man.
commercial.
Capital One.
He was
fun.
in Annapolis, Maryland.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, they said the Final Four was Indianapolis. And you're like, no, Indianapolis, Chuck.
That's a good one.
It's a great commercial.
That's
It stuck with
funny.
me.
That's funny, Chuck.
It stuck with me. Made me chuckle, Chuck.
Chuck.
Chuck. All right,
I
Trev.
love Chuck.
So Trevor put out this tweet. I'm going to let Trevor lay the groundwork because Twitter, you only have so many characters.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you expand
I've got a lot of groundwork.
I'm going to let you expand on your thought, and then we can present counter arguments if anyone has any.
Go ahead and read the tweet.
Yeah. So Trevor's tweet was, I think this run from Ganon will go down as the greatest MPO season of all time by time we get to October. If he wins Worlds, I'd probably call it right then and there. 7:32 a.m.
Doesn't
August
necessarily sound like an anti-Paul McBeth tweet, but that's how everybody took it.
Dang.
So therefore, I need to go ahead and give you. We're going to call this segment an invitation to consider. Obviously, everybody.
This is Trevor's tweet. We had Trevor's trivia.
Everybody in the comment section obviously got very offended. Paul 2015 this, Paul 2015 that. So I'd like to say a few things.
It was nice to see the Paul peeps come back out.
They do every time.
The Paul Patrol.
Every time.
The Paul Patrol.
Yeah.
Right.
I'd like to say a few things. Number one, Paul McBeth, since the time I started watching disc golf, has been probably my favorite disc golfer. There is absolutely no animosity in this take towards Paul McBeth. Number two, I completely understand the eras, the difficulty in arguing between eras, but I'll get to that in a second. But I'd like to just lay out some things. It's just an invitation to consider. So let's look at Paul's 2015 season. Let's look at it. He had 18 wins that year. Now, what's important about those 18 wins is half of them were made up of 8 A tiers and 1 B tier. Now, I understand. This is a very important thing as well. I understand that players could only play what they had to play. So that is, I'm not arguing this from an accomplishment standpoint. It's from a skill level standpoint. How much skill did it take objectively to do these things? So I want to look at those A tiers because that made up a huge chunk of that season that we're claiming is the greatest. He went 3 for 7 in NTs that year, which is great. But these A tiers are a big chunk of that season. So in those 8 wins, those A tiers, I'm going to use player rating because even though we don't love ratings, it is, in my opinion, the most accurate way to assess how good was the field at that time. If you look at the list of top-rated players right now, the current list, there are a few outliers here and there, but I'd say 90 to 95% of the list is accurate. The highest-rated players are a lot of the best players in the world. Mm-hmm. So if you look at those 8 A-tier wins, there was an average of 13 1,000-rated players and above per tournament, 13. To give you some perspective on that, the weakest field on the Pro Tour this year was the Copenhagen Open, a full Pro Tour. That has strength of 18 compared to Waco, the highest being 72, according to Statmando. At that weakest Pro Tour, remember, 13 average, 1,000 rated, some of them as low as 6, a couple of them, at those Paul wins, 45 1,000 rated and up at the weakest Pro Tour. At a middle-of-the-road Pro Tour, according to Strength of Field, Texas states, there was 104 players 1,000 rated and up. Paul's strongest field that year had 55 of these players. So that's about half of the strength of the field of Texas states. Mm-hmm. He also that year won 3 of his majors in a weakened field. He also had 5 attempts to win majors that year because there were 5 of them. The Aussie Open, there were literally only 5 players that had a chance of winning. The rest of the field were locals and shot 15 strokes behind the other 5. The European Open, to give you an example of how much weaker it was back then, players didn't all travel out to Europe. There was 35 players above 1,000 rated. There was 89 this year. And one of my other big points is Paul and Rick, because I once again I understand the era thing is difficult, and also I'm not punishing Paul for playing in that era and doing what he did. It was incredible, but Paul and Rick still play today. That era was 9 years ago. They're not ancient guys and Rick is playing at arguably a higher level today. So we do get some clues into what disc golf was then and now. And the last thing I kind of have here is Ganon so far this season with far greater competition and way more events that give you chances for bad finishes. Each event is a chance for good and bad. He is averaging a finish place of 4.6. That is ridiculous. If he wins Worlds, I think he has the greatest of all time season based just on just accomplishments based on true skill difficulty, not significance. We're not talking about we're talking about how hard it was to win what he won versus how hard it was to win what Paul won. And if he stays on this pace the rest of the season, I think there just is no other argument. So that is my invitation to consider. This is not meant to be a this or that. That was not really what this take was meant to be. I just kind of threw it out there because I was amazed at how hard it is to do what Ganon is doing. But since everybody wanted to get all boom, 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 I just wanted to throw some facts your way before you start tossing out, well, Paul only finished, like, half of his season took place against just tragically weaker fields.
There's a lot of facts that I think are difficult to argue.
May I boom, boom, boom
yes.
a little bit? Thank you. Okay.
I will allow you to speak.
only qualm with your take is that you're willing to call it after Worlds.
Okay.
When there is a lot of season left. Because Paul, 3 of the majors that he did win still exist today. There was 5 chances at majors. He did win all 5. The A-tier argument, that is a slightly different landscape of disc golf because a lot of the A-tiers were still at least attended by his only competition back then, which is obviously his biggest flaw, but it's also, what was he supposed to do? He had to beat Ricky week in and week out, and he did all but
Well, I would like to mention
times.
it was not his only competition back then. Most of those A-tiers were much weaker fields than there was potential to be.
Yeah, I'm saying back then, though, they're if you look at the 2015, 16, 17, that stretch, there was only like 5 guys.
No,
this is for your argument. There's only 5 guys. So I'm saying his only, it doesn't matter how many 1,000 rated players because like those people back then were never winning.
Right.
Nowadays, sure, that matters a lot more. I'm saying back then, like the A tiers felt like NTs because there was only like 3 guys that could win and they were all there.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That was why A tiers felt way more. Nowadays, players don't go play random A tiers, and if one does, the whole field doesn't follow him. Back then, it felt like the whole field followed him because we had only a few handful of players. My qualm with it is just, let's say Ganon wins Worlds and then rattles off 30th, 60th, 80th, 54th. Right. That's not the greatest season of all time.
So that's why when I said the thing about just accomplishments, not the entire season, not like what I would say is if he wins Worlds and you took all his wins and Worlds and just what he won and you compared it to what Paul won against each other, I think what Ganon did is more difficult. That's what I'm saying.
But I think that the consistency is where you lose it. Because Paul finished.
That's why I said that.
If Ganon stayed averaging 4th,
that's why I said
there's no argument.
I think just based on accomplishments, on true skill difficulty, not significance.
But I wouldn't call it the greatest season of all time. Because if he went, in my scenario, if he went 50th, 80th, even if he went 30th to finish, I think that taints it too much.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is a much more complicated argument because then it kind of goes to how we argue player of the year sometimes, where it's like, do you look at just what they succeeded in or them as a whole? That's what I'm saying is if I compare wins to wins, if he were to win Worlds, that's where I would take Ganon. But you're right. Yes, if he had an awful end of the season, I wouldn't just say outright. And like I said, I don't even like going down this road.
You tweeted it,
right? But I didn't say anything about Paul's season.
You said it would be secondary to Ganon's because of the tweet.
According to what? I was saying everybody else brought Paul's name in there.
Well, yeah, but
I didn't bring Paul's name anywhere into that conversation.
If I say Michael Jordan's the greatest basketball player of all time, that is a statement against LeBron James.
No, but Trevor didn't say that Ganon Burr is the best disc golfer of all time.
No, he said
he was referring to his season.
Yes, but he said the greatest of all time.
And I also said, you have to remember this. I said, I think, and I'd probably. That's the key thing people would just brush over.
Yeah,
I didn't say.
If you're willing to throw Worlds out of it and say he has to hold this pace the rest of the year, I'm on the same page.
I didn't say I guarantee and bar none. I said I think and I'd probably, and everybody hopped in my replies like I had just said. This is what they read. Paul McBeth's 2015 season is nowhere as good as Ganon's is right now. Paul McBeth sucks, and you are guaranteeing it. Like that's what people read in that tweet. That's what bothers me. That's what made me spend 20 minutes.
Literally, my only take against it is just willing to call it after Worlds.
The fact that that's our common ground, I'm delighted.
I don't even think he has to win Worlds. I think if Ganon just holds the 4th place average finish the rest of the season, then there's a very solid argument that it's better than the 2015.
I'm delighted you feel that way, and I think this may be the most shocking common ground we've ever had in our life, and I'm delighted.
Well, because statistically, I mean, I don't think you'd have to be living under a rock to think that what players are going against day in and day out. My only qualm is just I think he just has to hold, which there's no reason to think he's not going to.
Yeah.
He hasn't slipped yet. And with how dominant he's been, he can slip to like 15th a few times and still hold that average finishing place. Realistically, he's probably going to win Worlds. And if he wins Worlds and he just finishes close at USDGC, I mean, that's pretty darn close. And then it's hard to argue against a guy in this field averaging 4th, because the other problem too is if Paul hadn't lost, like if Paul had won everything, that's a whole different argument. He did lose. Well, I think he lost 6 times.
3 for 7 in NTs.
And he came in 3rd, and some of his losses were a C tier. I think he lost the Aussie Open warm-up, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he did.
It was like one of his losses is a C tier.
Yeah.
Like as much as that doesn't play in, it does if you're counting A tiers.
It gives you perspective as to what to and I hate doing the errors thing, but it's a little different. Like people were saying, like sending me video arguments about trying to compare Babe Ruth to Shohei Ohtani. I'm like, Babe Ruth played 100 years before Shohei Ohtani. Paul McBeth is still playing. Ricky is still playing. The guys that cemented that era and their greatness in that era are still playing and are not old men. Like they are capable
Still
of
competitive.
Paul was playing at a higher level.
Paul was
in
playing at a
2015.
slightly higher level.
Yeah.
I would agree. Ricky is playing at least the same level or very close to it. So
Well,
like we are
with your
getting-
argument, he must be playing better considering he's still competitive with a better field.
I think there's a difference when you have a guy, but we're talking about Ganon,
he
who's head
beat
and
them.
shoulders above the rest, though. Like I think that that's important to remember. But I think that some people like those eras are a lot closer than you think. It's one thing, like it's the same thing with LeBron and MJ. They'll never play against each other. Their eras are separated by a lot of years. So it's tough to make that argument. But when you look and like you can go back, I challenge you, just go back and watch 2015 USDGC and watch how many mistakes they make and just the way they throw the disc. And just tournaments from back then. Those guys just wouldn't have won a lot of these tournaments because you have guys like Calvin and Ganon who just play like robots.
I do think that 2015 Paul would have several wins this year.
I'm not saying he would. I'm not saying he wouldn't.
Mainly his putter. I don't know if I've ever seen someone putt the way 2015
there are
McBeth
plenty of
putted.
times that Paul won back then that just wouldn't have happened if the field was as strong as it was. That's the argument.
Yeah, because the flip side that I think is pro McBeth 2015 is by how much he won some of the stuff he won. Where it's like 2015 Worlds.
Yeah, because if
he's probably still
one
winning.
guy didn't play good, he was going to dominate.
But I'm saying 2015 Worlds, like how much did he actually win that by?
9.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good argument of like, okay, well the field's weaker. He just pummeled them into the ground.
Gannon just won this weekend by 7.
He did.
In a much harder field over 4 rounds. I mean, you guys forced me into this. I stand by everything I said. Like I'm just inviting you to look at hear what I just said about the strength of field and how much different it is. And if you just say it's not invalid, that's just ridiculous because we're not talking about as much within the era thing. I'm talking about skill required. How hard was it? Skill required. How hard was it? And these things happen less than 10 years apart.
Yeah, because I think this part of I think this run from Ganon will go down as greatest MPO season of all time by the time we get to October. I think if you disagree with that statement, you just don't know disc golf.
Thank you.
The secondary part is where
that's fine.
Secondary part is that's my only qualm.
We can just delete that part.
That's my only qualm. It's just like, Worlds happens next week. We've got the whole playoffs and another major.
I just
that
know
he could collapse.
Like it's so important to have a united front in a marriage, and I feel that right now.
Yeah. No, the first statement, I think.
Do you agree with us, Konner?
If you don't, I agree with you.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I have 2 follow-up questions.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, Trevor.
Yeah.
Why do you hate Paul McBeth with a bloodthirsty passion?
I was about to ask that. That's a great question.
So like, who hurt you?
Yeah.
That's my first question.
Paul, clearly.
And like, to where you're tweeting, like
slander.
purposefully to demean him.
You wouldn't know
and attack him.
And
so that's interesting to me. That's the only thing I disagree with about your tweet is I wish it was less aggressive towards Paul.
That's true.
So I can't quite get on board.
You should have kept his name out your mouth.
Yeah. My second question is Burr versus McBeth the new McBeth versus Climo? Right now, in this moment, it is. In this moment, with this argument, it feels like it.
In this moment, yeah.
In this moment.
Ganon hasn't even won a World yet. Let's start there.
Yeah. No, well, here's the thing. The funny thing, like I always forget.
This argument just sounds a lot like
sometimes
take away the names, it feels like we're just having a Climo McBeth conversation.
Sometimes I forget like what certain tweets are going to do. And because like now, it looks like I was engagement farming. It looks like I was trying to get all the Paul fans right up. I tweeted that at like 6:30 this morning because
7:30.
Was it 7:30?
Yeah.
7:32.
I thought it was still in the gym.
No, it was
I
7:32.
screenshot it. I don't know.
7:32.
7:32 a.m.
Oh, I
August
guess I
5th,
was here.
2024.
And I thought of it this morning.
What was the
And
address?
I literally was just like, I think I saw the stat. You know, he was 3 for 3 in leads here. I was like, dang, like what Ganon's doing this year is so insane. And I just threw it out there. I wasn't trying to make any kind of statement. And then before I know it, I'm drowning in replies.
And Trevor,
just drowning in.
Trevor's too passionate about his takes just to engagement farm.
Yeah. And I called him the Paw Patrol. I did. And I'm proud of that.
I don't think that's demeaning. I think that's hilarious.
It's just like
I think we need
if
to
you
make
tweet anything that they can tie him into.
We've got to.
I didn't know they were still here.
We've got to
Oh,
make.
they're still here.
We
I
got to
thought
make.
they were all died off.
We got to make a Paw Patrol shirt and put frosted tips on one of those dogs.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's a great idea. And big diamond earrings.
There's nothing wrong with being a passionate fan.
No
It
one's
happens-
gonna get that.
It happens in every sport. Like there are people that like they don't care what you say. It has to be spun in the name of like their
Paw
favorite
Patrol.
athlete. But
Trevor, that's so good.
I fell victim to it today.
That might be your best intellectual property is Paw Patrol.
I was pretty proud of that one.
Solid
yeah.
one. Now, what interesting thing happened during Ledgestone. This thread went up on Reddit talking about like what happened to Tournament Central. Where did Tournament Central go? Tournament Central, to clarify, still happened, but typically Tournament Central is ran by the on-the-ground host anchor, like the on-the-ground reporter, and an additional someone who's not working the broadcast that weekend, or if they have 2 on-the-ground reporters. It's not hosted by the main commentary team. So it's like kind of a breath of fresh air. You have like Brian Earhart and Nate Perkins before.
Sorry, intrusive thought. We got to mention the survey.
I have it.
Okay.
Brian Earhart and Nate Perkins will do it, right? And then you'll have Terry Miller and Nate Doss in the commentary booth. So you have like a pregame analysis, you have the commentary team, and then the pregame people come back for the postgame analysis. That's how it's kind of been going. That's what Tournament Central's been. So someone posted on Reddit basically saying like, what happened to Tournament Central? It's not happening anymore. Because if you turned it on 2 minutes late, you wouldn't see the Tournament Central intro. It's just the commentary team. And Jim Frisbee on Reddit, which underneath claims to be Corey Merle, a.k.a. Johnny Discoff. So someone who would know this.
Where'd Jim come from?
I don't know. Jim Frisbee, maybe
I like
changed Johnny
it.
Discoff.
I
I
to
like
Jim
the
Frisbee.
name Jim Frisbee.
He
a lot.
said he
Yeah.
says that this is the second set of layoffs for the DGPT. Tournament Central got the axe as well as 6 other employees, and then someone else said possibly jumping to conclusions here, but I wonder if their survey questions asking which commentators we did and didn't like is being used to determine who else may get let go if more cuts need to be made. And then Corey Merle said, I admit I had the same reaction when I heard about this. He earlier had said that he was a part of the first set of layoffs. So Corey Merle, him and people who were making non-coverage of stuff for the DGN were the first set of layoffs.
Dang.
Side thing that happened from this, Dust, who has been on Debate Night, regular on Debate Night, this Reddit thread's apparently how he found out that he had been laid off as a contractor for the Pro Tour and was not doing Tournament Central next weekend.
Which has happened
way.
before.
He tweeted and said, hey, at Disc Golf Pro Tour, maybe let people know directly that they no longer have gigs so that they don't have to find out through social media posts. Thanks.
Yeah, it's tough.
That's insane.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a tough one. It's not like they have that many staff. Like, just send an email.
Yeah.
Because I think
He was saying
he
that
went on to
basically
say the guy above him also got laid
yeah,
off.
it was
but
the
it's like
person he reports to got laid off. So therefore, like, no one told him, hey, you're not doing Tournament
but
Central
once
for
again,
Idlewild.
like
That's
it's
crazy.
not like this tree stems over 100 employees. Just send the email.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's not a great look.
No. Yeah, so it's an interesting thing in disc golf in general because the one thing we don't know about the Pro Tour is we know that Todd Rainwater bought the Pro Tour, said I think he gave like 4 years for it to get profitable. This
Yeah.
was in 2016. No, this was in 2018 or 19, somewhere in there. So that time has come and gone, meaning the Pro Tour needs to be profitable per his original statement. And then last year, the whole Natalie Ryan versus the Pro Tour, PDGA, all of those lawsuits obviously drained the Pro Tour and probably Todd Rainwater and the PDGA of a lot of resources.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know numbers-wise where the Pro Tour sits today.
Right.
Because it's hard to know, like, hey, is it something where they were profitable, this just drained them of all their cash, and then, with the economy being the way it is, they lost some subscribers this year, and now they're like just barely breaking even, but to make sure they can make payroll, they're laying people off? Or is this like they were never profitable, and Todd Rainwater's or whoever's funding the Pro Tour is saying, hey, we got to do something. I'm not funding this anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't hit the panic button until like Tournament Central. It's a good add-on, but once again, it's not essential. Most of the viewers, what they want is for tour events to happen, for the sake of the players, for those tour events to have good purses, and which those haven't gone down at this point, and for there to be live coverage. So as long as the Pro Tour is still having regular enough Pro Tour events, live coverage, and purses for the players, I'm not hitting panic, because like that would be like the bare bones operation. You know, if that's the lowest of the low, that's fine. You know, work from there. But I think they're trying to find that floor right now. It's like, okay, how streamlined can we actually run this organization? Where before it was like, we got the money, let's throw it around.
Yeah, because that's what we were kind of like talking about this, because Dustin had put into our
because there's
debate
still a
night
ton
Discord.
of people that want to watch live disc golf.
Talking about like how this sucks, basically, which makes perfect sense, because he just thought he had money coming for months and months, and then found out via social media he didn't. Very unfortunate. I don't like the way the Pro Tour handled that, because
not to mention he probably done prep work.
It's very easy, like Trevor had said, like just send an email. Yeah. Like the Pro Tour is not that big of an organization for someone to be like, oh, we have these guys doing Tournament Central next week. The red flag it throws up for me is why this happened in August. Like, why they have to be in enough of a financial pinch to be like, we need to make the cut now.
And cutting like that level, I mean, how much does it cost them to run a Tournament Central? You know, it's tough to say, but like, it
can't be that much.
I mean, it's enough that they're like $1,000 here, $1,000 there is a big deal to the Pro Tour.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure.
Like it's not like, because if this cut happens in the off season, not even a storyline.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, next year you probably wouldn't have to make an announcement. Next year Tournament Central just happens, and oh, it's the commentary team.
Right.
I was literally watching Tournament Central when I read this post, and I was like, poor guy didn't turn his TV on.
Sounds like,
because I was like, I didn't even notice Tournament Central had changed, because I don't really pay attention to it. But so that's the only thing that's like a little red flag to me, is like whatever situation they're in, it was necessary to make this cut.
It's kind of like a Vino Makala situation and Kevin Jones.
Where it's like, and again, cutting Tournament Central, but the 6 other employees, like that could be, you know, I'm assuming those are 6 full-time employees and Tournament Central. Like that could be a pretty big save to payroll. Like that could be a pretty big, like, okay, we're talking it may be 10,000. I mean, 6 employees. I mean, heck, that could be 20,000 a month. Who knows? You don't know how much people are making, but because that'd be, if it was 6 employees, that'd be
you could be looking anywhere from 20 to
$3,000. If they were making $3,000 a month including taxes and everything, that'd be $18,000 on just those 6 employees. So this could easily be, you know, hey, this is going to save us $50-$60,000 come off season. I don't know. So I agree with Trevor. Like, as long as the coverage is going on and everything, I don't think it's time to hit the panic button. But it definitely shows like where they were operating currently, they must not have been profitable yet.
Yeah, nobody is going to, like, the most of the public that consume live disc golf, they're not going to panic until it's all of a sudden like, hey, we've only got 2 camera operators for this event. Yeah. Or like, we don't have any commentary team for this event. Some people might like that. But like that, something very noticeable where it's like, oh, they're in trouble.
Yeah. But yeah, it's very interesting. I was trying to think, I've been told numbers, but I think they're publicly available numbers, but I won't say the numbers just in case they weren't publicly available. But subscriber number wise,
it's pretty good.
The DGN,
there's money going in.
That's what I'm saying. The DGN is doing better than I think 95% of people would believe.
Yeah, no,
subscriber number wise.
That's what I'm saying. There is definitely a model to where they can run this tour and be okay.
That's what
they're just figuring it out.
When I see that, it makes me not freak out, because I'm like, well, there is revenue coming in.
Yeah.
And you see like different tournaments like are being well attended.
And there's no competitive product. This is it. And people want to watch disc golf. They also own Jomez, so like they're not even leaking money there. So like disc golf is happening and people are watching it. They are the ones that control all of that. There is certain, I mean, look at how well the Jomez guys were doing for themselves just doing the YouTube side of things. Like, there is money to be had. They're getting the lion's share of it. They can figure out how to run it, some kind of tour.
You would think. Yeah. So final thing I want to push before we do the Silus Selects is the Ultiworld Disc Golf Fandom Survey.
Heck yeah.
Is back. It's time to fill it out. So you can head to discgolfsurvey.com, fill it out. Just take the first question when it asks you how long you have to fill it out seriously. Because like if you choose, I'll take forever, you will.
It took, I did that one. It took me probably 20 minutes, but it is the most, like, you get the most questions, and you get some very interesting ones.
I was just in a parking lot, and I was like, I just picked up groceries, so I was about to head home, and I was like, oh, I'll do it now. And I was like, I have 10 minutes, so I hit the 10 minutes, and there was several questions that got to ask to Trevor about like what type of media do you consume and stuff like that I didn't get asked because I only had the 10-minute one. But regardless, when you get to the end of the survey, it's gonna say, where did you hear about this survey from? Hit other at the bottom and type foundation disc golf.
Yep.
Because last year we just tweeted it once, and
to be
it was
fair,
very fun to watch.
Fair, let's make this very clear as well. We are not asking you to skew this survey.
No. Answer
the survey honestly, but we just like knowing that our audience accounts for like 70% of active disc
that's
golf
all
watchers.
I want to see. I want to see at the end like how many. I just want to see the stat line of how many people typed in foundation disc golf for other.
Yeah.
That's all. So yeah, Trevor, answer everything else 100% right. Like say who your favorite pros are, your favorite commentary team, how often you play. All that's all great data, and that's all necessary for like better understanding.
It's a really good survey. I think they really. I think they hired somebody out this year to really like do the research and like be able to analyze the data. And so the questions are really good. And
it should create some very fun articles this offseason.
There's also some really good stuff involved regarding the PDGA and like where their priorities should be, and like you order their priorities. Like it's very good, and I feel like this is one of the few opportunities that we have to like really have a voice because people are going to look at this survey. So yeah, take the survey. You really should.
And then you hit other foundation disc golf.
And do that.
Yes, sir.
All right, style select time.
It's a zone.
Okay.
Ew.
Don't,
dude, Konner. There is a gateway driver in the U section. I don't know what it is, but it is the plastic is glorious. Anyways,
I'll
it's
touch
an
it
FD.
Up. No, he said a
that.
gateway driver.
No, and
you're not talking about
I
that.
It's an
think
FD.
it is going to be an A5.
A 5 what? 5. There's only one disc in there, Trevor.
I think it's gonna be one of those college ones.
I'm so scared. Don't open it yet.
I'm opening it right now.
What is the FD zone A5?
It was an intercore.
Man.
Oh my gosh, I was so
I feel like that's
close.
not the first time he's got us with that.
I was so close.
You were so close. I would say you were definitely the
I'm
closest.
getting sick of this segment. It just makes me mad for no reason.
Hunter getting fired up.
Every week, I feel like I have
when
a
somebody
valid
gets
reason.
it, though, we're gonna freak out.
Yeah, I'm gonna punch him.
There's no reason for me to ever feel as confident as I do whenever I answer.
No, I think Silus just doesn't use logic. He just walks out and grabs a disc, and we all try to make him use logic in our heads.
Or he wants you to think that.
Or he wants us to think that.
Hunter's so
Yeah.
upset about it, he's starting to
I'm
cry.
starting to cry.
Shoot, dude, not again.
Not
Ankle.
again.
Ankle's starting to hurt.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk to you the preview show for Idlewild this week.
Idlewild.
And then we'll talk to you again on Monday when we wrap up Idlewild next week. See you then.